Storytelling with Data is a book by Cole, I'm not going to butcher her name, but um, she is amazing when it comes to paring down information and making graphs a lot easier to read. So that's a great book about that. And then when we talk about time, the very first project that I was given when I became a data coach was to go into these content meetings with these teachers and talk them, excuse me, through the reflection of a reteaching form that looked just like this. What happened was when we got to those meetings, we were spending the entire meeting filling in these charts, playing with formatting, doing tedious math. I love math. I like to say I'm a math person, but I shouldn't say that because everyone's a math person. But I enjoy doing math. I always have. I do not want to sit here and fill in these tables. Nobody wants to do that, and nobody has time to do that. So what I ended up doing as my first project was turning it into this spreadsheet, and this is the reteaching form that I talked about that superintendent using the wrong way. I gave you guys a copy of that reteaching form, but essentially it takes all that data and immediately automatically fills in all of the charts and graphs and everything that they needed so that we were spending a lot more time focusing on reflecting on that data and coming up with reteaching plans versus filling in the tables. So I also have a TBT agenda that I've linked there for you. This is great because, again, the teachers just put in their information. If you have common assessments, this is a good one for that. And then it automatically gives a graph. And then below that, it has just a ton of reflection questions. Obviously, you're not meant to answer every single one, but it gives a good starting point for those conversations. All right, I just sped through that. Now it's time for visualization. So when we talk about visualization, there are some very important tips that I need to give you. First of all, know your audience. You have to know who you're talking to and what questions do they have. So whatever data you present is going to look different depending on whether or not you're talking to teachers, you're talking to administrative staff, you're talking to exec staff, maybe you're even talking to the board or to the public. You want to think about what questions might they have versus what do I want to show them, right? And then also, what answers am I finding for them follows that same thing. But this is a big one. What other questions will my visualization inspire, or what conversations may result? You want to leave them with something that makes them want more, right? Because if they want more data, then you're on the right path. If I can present a little bit of data to some teachers and they can say, but wait a second, what happens if you break it up this way? I've won them. They're in the palm of my hands. I've got them covered. They're asking questions about data. Let me go find that for you. And let me give it to you. And now that you asked for it and I had to go get it and give it to you, you're bought in. You're using that data. You're at least reflecting on that data. You're looking at that data. So I stopped offering everything. I just gave them the most basic and let them come to me and ask questions about more. You also want to consider design. And again, this goes back to that storytelling with data. Whenever you're creating a graph, you need to know that people read top to bottom, left to right. So titles should, in most cases, go in the top left. I always put them in the top center, and then I read that and I was like, oh, shoot, it makes more sense to put them on the left. So all titles should go on left, and you should recognize that people read down a graph and then over. So if you are able to do horizontal bar charts like this, then you should do that because that's the easiest for people to read. Anything that is related to time should be vertical bars or vertical in terms of, I know it's hard to imagine this, but if you're doing like a timeline, a line graph, the line would be going horizontal, but if you're doing bar graphs, it's vertical. So I kind of use that as like a check for me. If I'm doing any kind of bar graph, it's almost always horizontal. The only time I use vertical is if we're talking about time. A good example is this breakdown of domain scores over time. So this is for Miss Sally. She has all of her domain scores broken down, and you can see that it's across time. So therefore, we're doing the vertical bar graph. Use white space.